Ladies and gentlemen, how do you do? I am Bart Jackson, CEO of Prometheus Publishing, and I'm here because people say I have a very good face for radio. As CEO of publishing, I had one very eager and frustrated writer who was doing a business guide for us, and he wrote to me and said, "Come on now, does anybody really read business books anymore?" And I thought about this. I wanted to give him a good answer. So if you don't mind, what I'd like to do is read you briefly the answer that I penned. It's called Good News for the Energized Elite. We're the prettiest girl on the dance floor in a culture that no longer dances. Bart's book's ultimate business guides, like every other well-known and publicized purveyor of book-length business tools, offers counsel in a form that apparently appears too overwhelming for the mass of readers to digest. Today, May 30th, the numbers of people reading tweets and Facebook missives will exceed the sales of all business books published in America through 1913, and even 2013. Our two-sentence business quips are devoured by many thousands every year, more thousands than will read any of the books in our catalog. And still, we publishers, we don't get it. We at Bart's Books sweat diligently to make ourselves appealing to the giant mass of people who would somehow conveniently like to improve somewhat their careers and enterprises if it's not too much trouble. And so we primp our hair and our logos, and we set on our most alluring glad rags and covers. We travel to Japan and Singapore and Asia and Europe, even primitive California. And we gather the best possible ideas from the top business leaders. We agonize over placing them in a readable format. Even our Bart's Book motto is a plea to palatability, concise counsel from business masters. And the results, book sales remain steady, and we have a 400% rise in our hits to our weekly business tip, which is 2 paragraphs on our blog. You, the reading public, you wink, but you do not commit to a dance. Most of you people out here will spend more time preparing your taxes than you will reading a business guide to help you move to success and satisfaction. When it comes to reading, the American public has spoken. Millions for diversion, but not $10 for information. Now, all of this is not whining. What it really is it's very good news for those people we call the energized elite. That's that small, select number of individuals who are willing to make any investment in success. Such individuals that are at this high level of coterie who will gladly invest in a book, purchase it, take it home, read it, greedily embrace its wisdom, and happily apply it to their lives. There are only a few of you, but we really only need a few of you to fill our dance card. So we are going to move from the giant mass ballroom to a place where the venue is a little more easy, the air is cleaner, and where we can talk to the people who really want to read and really want to change their lives. It is for you, this energized elite, that we now prepare our guides. Shall we dance? And helping me discuss just how we might approach this energized group, the people who really do care and really will read, is Mr. John Sarno over here. John is an attorney. He is president of the New Jersey Employers, the Employers Association of New Jersey. He is a professor of business and law at the Rothman Entrepreneurial Institute, and he has written a book that is not only complex, it is profound, called The Perils of Prosperity. And he is also one of those rare few who has read the entire 118 pages of the Affordable Health Care Act. He is a reader. And as a matter of fact, sitting in his presence makes me feel about as nervous as an automaker stepping off his private jet to go ask Congress for money. But at any rate, I think I'll try. John, how are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Great to be here.
That's great. So you really read all 1,018 pages of the Affordable Health Care Act?
I did. I happened to be teaching a class in healthcare policy in the executive MBA program. And I was teaching the class throughout the debate through the fall and summer. So clearly I had a professional and personal interest in the bill itself.
Well, there's only one other man I know who has read the Affordable Care Act, and that is rocket scientist and congressional representative Rush Holt. And I got the two of them to square off in a debate, which was fun. But what I'm going to ask you, John, is as a need to read, you read it. What was the benefit? What did you see? Give us 2 or 3 things that you saw that all the people who are just assuming this and not reading missed.
Well, it's a great story. It's a story of our time. It's a story of our history.
Yeah.
It's a story of our civic creed. Everything is there in the Affordable Care Act. Freedom, human agency, free will, responsibility, the role of government, the free market.
I love you, but I'm not going to go out and read it.
Individual choice. No, it's
really?
a great story. It's a great story.
Uh-huh.
Not to mention a potential business opportunity for anybody who decides to plow through it.
And actually has worked for you you found an opportunity through reading the whole tome, right?
Reading, a fair degree of scholarship, talking. To me, reading is inseparable from conversation and sharing with others what you've picked up, learning from others. So I think that convergence of reading and discussion, talking with many people as possible who knew more than I did, absolutely developed the insight that I was able to leverage into a significant business opportunity.
That's great. That's great. Well, now, you also have a unique perspective in that you are both the professor of business students, and at the same time, you are, as head of the Employers Association, you know thousands of business leaders. And what I want to know is, are they reading less? Have you seen that people are voluntarily reading less or not?
Well, reading, as far as I can see, reading among the business student and also with an executive suite, it's very utilitarian. It's either reading for leisure or reading for a specific purpose. Okay. Reading to get a promotion, reading to advance long-term in a career. And of course, with students, it's reading to get a grade. And my whole approach, both in terms of facilitating a learning organization within the Employers Association, but also as a professor, is to get people to read not only for a utilitarian reason, but read for insight, read for deep, engaged learning.
Wonderful.
And that's where the insight, I think, gets generated. That's where the value add of reading is.
I think that it's true, but there is one thing that we're interested in from you and on the end line, on the reader's line, and that is to be truthful. Most business books, I really feel, miss the mark in a way. First of all, we have a very unhealthy attitude toward what goes into them. And you can tell that by the words. Words define how you feel. You talk to editors and you talk to publishers. They use the term content. Now, content is sort of like the manure you take and fill in a bucket. It has the charm of a blood-gorged tick, and it really is not something that's going to enhance people. And if you treat it that way, in other words, we've got this cover, we got to fill the sucker up with something. And this is an attitude that you see more and more in publishing itself. And I'm wondering, so I'm going to ask you the reader, John, what is it that would make, what do you think that your people, your business leaders, your students, what does the publishing world need to do to make our product better for our clients?
Well, first let me say that's quite a metaphor you used. I thought you were talking about lawyers there for a minute, but in any event, content is important. but so is context.
Okay.
Content without context, I think, is less important and less useful.
How do you mean?
Well, take an executive or a middle manager who is looking to fulfill their career aspirations within their organization. They can't. Learning does not occur in a vacuum,
Right.
and therefore, what you read too has to have more than just a little bit of piece of information that you can use. I think the meaning really is with regard to how it fits not only to the individual, but how it fits to the wider that piece of information, how it relates to the wider organization. That's what I would call value. That's what I would call value-added reading or value-added learning, whatever you want to call it. It's more than just the individual gaining knowledge. It's how that knowledge relates to the whole and how it's applicable
I like
going
that.
forward.
Yeah, because what you're saying, I think, to a very large extent, is that, as I said, our plea to palatability, concise. We'll get it to you quick. We'll get it to you easy, because we know you hate this book to begin with, and so we're going to make it nice and short. And so we give nuggets.
It's hard to write too. I mean, writing with context is
My
very,
wife's
very,
husband tells me that.
very, very difficult to do, because you can't. You still have to be concise. I mean, these are very busy people who are reading for a purpose,
Yeah.
and the context that you do provide for whatever, let's say, business advice you're giving, has to be palatable. I think has to be concise, and that's very difficult to write concisely. Context in a concise way. I don't think I've achieved that, by the way, with the book, with Perils of Prosperity. I wrote that book for students so I can teach with. And it's as a writer, it's not only hard work, you're constantly refining. You're constantly trying to be as concise as possible without compromising critical information.
I think you're right. There is a tendency to first of all, I like your idea of taking what you want and applying it. We have a book called 101 Best Business Quips. It's great, it's fun. We have things like, when our board of directors calls a roll, half these guys don't know whether to answer with present or not guilty. So, all right, but you put a little idea of project manager is such a lovely role. It allows those who have absolutely no expertise in a field to lead those who do. All right, now that's an idea, it's a nugget. But
well, that's like knowledge management is a bit of an oxymoron as well.
The man knows of what he speaks. But I think that there has to be the applicability. Now, we have one author who is in our Prometheus team who's looked at the Peter Drucker style, which was, again, years back. He brought out the fact that the stories would come with essays, and then they would come afterwards, an afterthought, a way you could apply it. And that's great. We tried to do this in The Art of the CEO, but many of the business books I've been reading are short and punchy, and it's the sort of the business Buddhism, 8 steps to blessedness, 7 steps to a healthy, richer, more wasteful you, or whatever. And I think that what you're saying is that if you can make it applicable, but make your ideas concise, but follow through on the thought. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with short and punchy. I mean, Drucker was a missionary, I'm not sure whether busy people who are reading for business purposes are reading to be converted, to be converted into a zealot for a particular mission. So I think short and punchy is appropriate. But I think, too, that somewhere along the line, the author, at least up front, has to indicate what their bias might be, what the purpose of the book is, and then the reader can pick and choose whether these short fortune cookie type pieces of wisdom are relevant to them. As long as the author's up front saying, I'm writing short and punchy, and this is the reason why.
Right. Well, I think there is a point that you're saying is that no one is going to say that business is a leisurely occupation. But there is a difference between being busy and being distracted. Short and chopped up is for the person who can't read anything beyond a text. But busy allows a person to get to the meat perhaps a little more quickly. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I think also let's say for an employer who, many employers will buy books for employees. Inspirational books, books about innovation, books about corporate vision or mission.
Okay.
I think you have to be really realistic about that. Employees are, maybe if you're getting 4 good hours during an 8-hour day, I would settle for that. Yeah. I would think that would be a big win as an employer. There's a lot of downtime. There's all that time in front of a screen for a lot of people. There's eye strain. There's fatigue. And then there's the work-family balance.
Attractive person in the next cubicle.
The work-family balance. Time is absolutely critical. Without time for reflection, without time to actually be able to pick up a book, it's just very difficult to incorporate that into a lifestyle. And I think, too, that's why short and punchy fulfills a role. There's a lot of busy people, a lot of working parents.
Again, I think that it's also a matter of commitment. What I've seen is that there are people out there who do want to read because they believe they buy into the belief that this book can actually enhance me. I got in a cab, sat next to an immigrant. Immigrant business people are very high demographically on the business book buying list, by the way. And he had this book right there. It was a business book that he had picked up, and he would read it all the time in his cab. He had great dreams, but what was nice about these dreams, he said, if I follow what's in this book, I don't have to follow it slavishly, but I can get some ideas that'll boost me. I think they're in a book, and I think we have to keep looking for them.
Books can be inspirational. Books are, it's more than just the acquisition of an idea or knowledge. It's about self-improvement. I mean, just that vignette will tell you that, someone is looking to improve their business, looking to improve themselves, looking to realize a goal, looking to fulfill an ambition. There's many ways to do that. I think books are a part of the equation. I also think conversation is a real important part of the equation. I think teaching is a part of the equation. I think being a student is a part of the equation. Lifelong learning is a part of the equation, and books are, I think, a critical part of lifelong learning.
I think you're right, and we happen to, by sheer chance, have somebody right here who is authoring a book, who, despite everything that we've said, and despite all warnings to the contrary from publishers abroad, we have Mr. Keith Danko, who is writing a business guide right now. Keith, could you come up here for just a moment? I want to ask you a few questions as someone who's actually putting a book together. I do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Keith Danko, who is head of Witherspoon Consulting and a hedge fund pioneer and a person who has been guiding businesses and doing due diligence on 75,000 or a whole batch, right?
A lot less than that.
Okay. Anyway, we're very fortunate to have Keith here. And Keith, you are doing a new book, and I'm going to ask you that you tell us about the title and whom you are trying to reach with this book.
Sure. The title is Manage the Process. It's a book intended for employees, managers, owners, entrepreneurs, really anybody who aspires to get the best out of themselves. My experience has led me to very strong belief that most people have it within themselves, certain skills, abilities, They should concentrate on developing those skills and abilities, not worry so much about the skills and abilities that other people tell them they need to develop. And then once they identify those and cultivate them, realize that in the world around them, the business world and the other worlds they inhabit, there are processes and frameworks that exist around them. And they should work on identifying and analyzing those processes. And once they understand them, there's a lot of freedom within those processes for them to be themselves and use those skills and attributes that they have. And that's what we're going to talk about in the book.
I thank you. Boy, that sounds like one my wife is going to make me buy. And
I'll give you a free copy, Bart.
that's very kind of you. Steve, could you tell us when we can start looking for this book and where we might be able to get it?
It should be available by the end of September, and certainly in time for the holiday season. And it'll be published by Prometheus Publishing.
My goodness, imagine that. Well, Keith, thank you very much. Thank you for coming here. And I would just like to say, in the words of Ed Sullivan, that brilliant orator at the variety show, we're running a little late, folks, so good night. But I thank you all for coming. It has been a privilege, and I hope we have inspired a few folks out there to read a little, invest in a book, and get a better life out of it. I thank you.